Okay. So today we will be studying the chapter Human Health and Disease. Okay. Now, first of all, we need to know certain terms such as what is health. Okay, what are the diseases associated? What are the types of diseases? Which are the agents which cause these diseases? And how the process happens, like how the infections are spread from one human being to the another or vice versa. So, first of all, if we see here about the health, okay, so health means what? Health means it's nothing but absence of disease, right? So it's written over here, absence of disease, or you can say when a person is physically fit, we say that that person is what? Healthy. Okay, so it includes everything such as the physical, mental, as well as what? The social well-being. So obviously we know that if the people or if the person is healthy, so there will be more efficiency as well as productivity when they are working. Plus one more thing of an healthy person is what? About the lifespan, right? So lifespan is increased in the healthy persons. So maintaining a good health is very important. So in order to achieve or to maintain that good health, what we need a balanced diet, hygiene, exercise, okay, all these things, which are the proper waste disposals, okay, control of vectors means what? The insects or the organisms which causes the disease are called as what? Vectors. As well as hygienic food and water consumption. And the most important part that we'll be studying in this, that is the vaccination or immunization. Okay, so this is just to avoid or prevent whatever the diseases are there right from the birth. Okay, so these are the things which we will be seeing. So first of all, now we know that what is health. Now the second thing is what? Disease, right? So disease means what? Disease is nothing but an illness or sickness that shows specific signs or symptoms. Okay, so it's like you're not well, in short. So there will be what? Different causes for the disease to occur. Now different factors which we see that is affecting the health are what? The major factors which we see nowadays is what? First one is what? The lifestyle. Okay, then we have the infections, then we have the heredity, that is nothing but your genetic disorders. So as we know, heredity or genetic disorders are what? The diseases or issues which are already present from the birth itself. Then infections means what? The vectors or pathogens which causes the infection, okay, is called as what? Infectious organisms, or infections are caused by them. And the third one is what? Unhealthy lifestyle. So like as I said, about to become healthy, what are the things we should do? If you don't do those things, it becomes what? Unhealthy lifestyle, like binge eating, okay, a lack of exercise and all those stuff, right? So the disease and health, they are associated with each other, and if you maintain a healthy lifestyle, the disease will be less or it won't happen. Okay, but comparatively nowadays it will happen, but to a lesser extent. Whatever the complications it will make will be less if you're healthy, right? So mainly the disease are classified into what? Two types. One is the infectious disease, and another one is the non-infectious disease, or you can say communicable and non-communicable. So as the word itself suggests, communicable disease means what? They will cause the infection, or you can say they spread from an unhealthy person to healthy person. Okay, like for example, if you get cough, cold, or those things, they are what? Infectious disease. Sometimes viral fever, if it happens, they are infectious. Greater than that, one such infection which we have, or which certain people have, not everyone, but that's called as what? The AIDS. Okay, so this is something which doesn't spread so easily. Only if there is a sexual contact, then only this disease which is there, it will spread from person to person. And the second group is what? Non-infectious or non-communicable disease. So they won't spread from person to person. For example, if a person is having cancer, okay, so if you meet or greet that person, obviously it's not infectious, so it will be limited to the towards that person itself. Okay, but this cancer and all those stuff, they will be what considered as a chronic type of diseases, means a long lasting type of disease. So these are what the classifications of diseases. Now the life's period, whatever the period of that particular disease is there, it all depends upon what the medications or even the individuals body characters or body natures, whatever is there, right? So when do you get a disease? So you get the disease when the pathogens invade our body, right? So pathogens, when they invade our body, we feel what, like somehow we have so many symptoms like not feeling well, nausea, fatigue, and all those stuff, right? So what they're literally doing is they enter into our body, okay, and they react with your cells. Whatever your antibodies are there, they will be awakened at that time, because whatever pathogens are there, they act as what, antigens. Okay, so this particular antigens, when they are detected by the body, antibodies will be produced against it. Okay, so this is what the effect of the pathogens on body. So sometimes it happens that our body naturally has the capacity to heal by producing the antibodies, and it will kill that particular infection. But sometimes you require what, a medical attention, or externally you require to take some medicine so as to suppress those particular antigens of that particular infectious disease. Okay, so such common diseases which we can find in human beings are what, or the pathogens which we can find is what, there are like many groups of pathogens which we can see. Okay, for example, is what, bacterial, we have bacterial diseases, viral diseases, protozoan diseases, okay, even the helminthic and fungal diseases. So these are what some of the types of disease that we can see. So the first one which we have over here is the bacterial disease. So I'll just yeah. Okay, so now this diagram over here, which you can see, is of what? A typhoid fever. Okay, so how do one get typhoid? Okay, so here we have so many contamination agents like the feces, fluids, dirty hands, flies, feels, right? The open food and all those stuff. Okay, so usually there is a pathogen which is called as what? Salmonella typhi. So what does this Salmonella typhi do when it enters into us, like what, from whatever sources you can see over here, from any of the one, we'll get high fever, or you can say ache in the stomach, right? Headache, loss of appetite, you won't feel like eating, and all those stuff. So it's very important that if you get a typhoid in the initial stage, it should be detected and cured by itself. Otherwise, what will happen is, if you prolong that particular disease without curing, or you if you don't detect that particular typhoid, it will even lead to death in certain cases. Or even whatever the intestines which are there, they may damage to a larger extent if not founded in the initial stage. Okay, so usually the major source of transmission, where you can get this typhoid by the Salmonella typhi, is this food and water. So if the food and water is contaminated, usually by the feces or the drainage systems, then you get this typhoid fever. So how can you detect this typhoid fever? So you can detect it by Vidal test. Vidal test. Okay, so this if you do this Vidal test, it will confirm that particular disease, right? Then the second one which you have is the pneumonia. Okay, so this is also a bacterial disease which is caused by the Streptococcus pneumoniae. Okay, so usually influenza like symptoms also you will get over here, like fever, chills, and all those stuff. And mainly, as you see in this diagram, it is affecting what? Your lungs. Okay, and in the lungs, if you dive deep, there are what? Small tiny grape like structures which is called as the alveoli. So what does this bacteria do is, it will enter or infect the lungs alveoli. So because of that, what will happen now? Alveoli are the small grape-like structures which is storing whatever the oxygen is. It stores the oxygen. So when this bacteria invades the alveoli, it creates fluid in that particular sacs, that is the alveoli. And because of that, what happened? We feel the breathing issues. Okay, and if the pneumonia goes to the next stage, even there is a what do you say, a pigmentation of the lips, nails, and all those stuff, like it will become somewhat grayish blue in color. Okay, so this is what the effect of the streptococcus pneumonia, which causes the pneumonia thing. And usually how it is transmitted is, if suppose any person who is already having this pneumonia, he or she sneezes, okay, and if the particles enters into us or something like that, then what will happen is you will also get the pneumonia. Okay, in the same way, the dysentery, plague, whatever stuff is there, right, these are also the bacterial type of diseases which we can see. Okay, then the next one which we have is what, the viral disease. Now viral disease, usually they are most common nowadays, okay, like your common cold which is there. So common cold is caused by whom? The, I'll just write down over here. It is the rhinoviruses. Okay, so what they do is, means when they enter into your body, it gives the nasal congestion, or you will be having sore throat, discharge, headache, tiredness, and all those stuff. Obviously, it will affect the lungs also. Okay, so this is also again, if you inhale the droplets of a infected person, an infected person, or if you touch something which is contaminated already, then you get this viral disease such as what, common cold. Another important disease which we have is what, the protozoan category. So just, so here if you see, okay, this is the diagram of what, how one can get a protozoan disease. Now this is the example of amoebiasis. Amoebiasis. Okay. So what is amoebiasis? In short, it's nothing but an amoebic dysentery, which is caused by this protozoa called as the entamoeba histolytica. Okay, so obviously, as such, like bacteria and all those stuff, this also causes the symptoms like what, abdominal pain, then in what do you say, stomach cramps, okay, then loose stools, and even at the later stages, it may also cause what, the mucus with blood clots. Okay, so this is what the symptoms which it causes. But usually the what do you say, carrier of this particular protozoa is nothing but the house flies. Okay, house flies are the one which transmits this parasites from, like, if it sits on an infected feces, okay, and then again if it sits on a healthy person, then they may get this particular amoebiasis is there. Okay, so it's usually caused by this protozoan, which is called as what, entamoeba histolytica. So you can see how actually it takes place, right? So this is nothing but the cell division. Okay, whenever it enters into you, so how the cell divides, like our body acts as a host for that particular a protozoan. Okay, and it lives in our body and it will produce that infection within our cells. Okay, so this is the diagram which it is showing. One another such protozoan disease which we can see over here is the malaria. Okay, so this is what, the basic cycle of the malaria. Mm, Let me just clear this thing. Yeah. Okay, so if you see in this diagram, malaria, as we all know, it is caused by mosquitoes, right? So there is an organism which is a protozoa which is present in the mosquitoes, right? The female anopheles mosquitoes, and when it bites us, then the DNA or whatever things is there, it's transferred into the healthy person. So usually malaria is caused by plasmodium. Mm, I'm not able to write it first. Plasmodium. Okay, so this is the causative agent. So whenever you get malaria, you have high fever for almost 3 to 4 days, and usually the hosts are whom? The humans as well as the mosquitoes. Okay, host is different, vector is different. Okay, so vector is usually an agent which is going to carry it from one place to the another place, whereas host means what? On which actually this plasmodium is going to live and use all its energy so that it can survive. That is called as what? The host. Okay, so there are different kind of plasmodium, and one such plasmodium is the plasmodium malariae, which is going to cause what? The this one, the malaria disease, which is there. But there are certain other this one, plasmodiums also, which is going to cause certain malarias, which will be more chronic rather than this 3 to 4 days fever, right? It may be more chronic comparatively. So it all depends upon which strain has been entered into the mosquito and it has bitten us. So this is the overall what? The cycle of a plasmodium. So what happens is whenever the mosquito, now here you can see, I'll just maximize this. Yeah. So here you can see the first step is what? The mosquito takes a blood meal. So what it is basically doing is already its plasmodium is inside the mosquito. So it is going to inject the sporozytes. Okay. So sporozytes are the infectious cells. Okay. Which is present where? In the plasmodium. So what happens is this porocytes will enter through the bite of that infected female Anopheles mosquitoes. So once it bites us, what is going to happen is it is going to affect this part, which is the liver. Okay, so in the liver, these parasites are just going to multiply. Okay, so when it increases in number, automatically what will happen is the other things of your body, like for example, RBCs. After the liver, what it will attack? The RBCs. Okay, so first stage will be the liver, then will be the RBCs. So when it attacks the RBCs, what is going to happen is your RBCs will rupture. Okay, and when it ruptures, what will happen? Oxygen will be released, right? So that is why the oxygen level also decreases and you get fever chills to that through the days, 3 to 4 days, whatever it is there, right? So this is how the overall stages happen. So once it's affecting, here you can see infected liver cell. Okay, then the third one, the RBCs is also attacked. Then the rupture shigont you have. Okay, which is nothing but it will release certain enzymes like hemosin enzymes. It will release, that's a toxic substance which in turn gives us chills. Okay, then what happens after the third stage is, here the fifth stage you can see how it is going, right? Whatever the erythrocytic cycle means, your RBCs are being multiplied, it has been ruptured over here, and finally what is happening is you are infected. Okay, so this side which you can see is the cycle, what happens when it bites us. And this is what, to form that particular sporocyte, how it happens, this is that particular cycle, as you can see. Okay, so this things all takes place inside the mosquito. Only when it gets an host, then only the sporocytes will be formed. Okay, and then when it bites the host, then all the other factors which are there, it will be carried forward. Okay, so these are what, like, for example, if they ask you the life cycle of the plasmodium, then how does it enter? What does it do? Right? How the reinfections will take place or not? That all the steps you have to write over there. Because what happens is only if the infected person, if that mosquito is biting the infected person, obviously it sucks blood. So through the blood only that plasmodium sporocytes will come into the mosquitoes and then it will act as a vector, right? So whatever the plasmodium is there, it will require what? Two hosts. Okay, so that it can complete its life cycle. So what are the two hosts which I told you is, one is the mosquito. Okay, and the second one is what? The human beings. So if a plasmodium has to complete its life cycle, it has to get two hosts, which is the mosquito as well as the human beings. And what is the vector which it uses to transfer this thing? Is the female Anopheles mosquito. That is the transmitting agent over here. So this is all about what? The plasmodium life cycle. Next, coming towards the helminthic disease. Okay, so Helmintic disease, as you can see over here, this is the roundworm, which is also called as the ascaris. Okay, so when this infects us, it will give, or what do you say, it will cause what, the elephantiasis. So elephantiasis means what is, usually whatever these worms are there, it will enter into our body and cause chronic inflammation. Okay, so inflammation means what, swelling, right? So whatever the limbs or the genital organs which are there, those will be swollen if this particular roundworm enters into the human being. Okay, not only the swelling, but sometimes even the muscle pain, internal bleeding, all those symptoms can also occur. So, what is the major transmission? How does this occur? Again, through the contaminated water as well as the food. Okay, this is what the helminthic disease. Next, this is the diagram of a ringworm. Okay, when the person is affected by any sort of fungal disease, especially the microsporum or any other fungi types which we have, right? So, if that particular human is being infected by the fungus, then this is the, what do you say, symptom which you can see initially. Okay, which is caused by what, a ringworm. Okay, so what you can see over here is the skin is dry, you have lesions over there, and plus it will be associated with what, itching. So if you're using any contaminated soil, sorry, towels or cloths or something like that, right? Especially if you go to any hotels or resorts, and if the clothes are not clean, and if you take it, and if it's already used by the infected person, then the chances are high of the occurrence of the ringworm. Okay, even through the soil also the ringworms can be transferred. So how you can prevent this particular ringworm is, it's very easy. That is personal hygiene, public hygiene, all those common things what we need to follow. If you follow those things, you can easily what, prevent the ringworm. Even as we say that in the stagnant water, right, there are eggs laid by the mosquitoes, and that can also cause the malaria. But not only malaria, but for this thing, that is this ringworm, like all those stuff also, stagnant water is not good. Okay, so for all these types of diseases, whether it may be bacterial, fungal, protozoan, helminthing, whatever it is, you need to what, prevent and control those things. So the basic prevention and control that you can do is what, personal hygiene, public hygiene. Then obviously you should avoid the close contact with the infected person, and also you should avoid the vectors entering into your place. For example, mosquitoes, you can use mosquito coils, the nets which are there, you can use the insecticides, right, all those stuff, and you can keep the environment clean. So this is how you prevent and control the thing. Now, if you want to further go into this prevention and control, what you can do is you can opt for certain vaccines or the antibiotics and drugs. So now what are the vaccines or the antibiotics and drugs? So, so yeah. Okay, so usually vaccines means what? They will be having this live organisms, okay, which has the capacity, when they enter into us, it has the capacity to kill the antigens, okay, thereby acting as an external antibodies to our body. Okay, so usually vaccines or even antibiotics, that is the medicines or the pills that you take for the fever reduction or whatever it is, right? So these are what, certain advancements which you can do apart from the other prevention and controls in order to prevent the disease. Okay, so whenever you do or take this vaccines or antibiotic, something which is created in you is called as what, immunity, right? So immunity means what, it's the natural ability of your body to sense that some infectious agent has entered, now I need to kill it. But what if the immunity is not present inside your body against that particular agent? Okay, then what you can do? So basically, depending upon that only, we have what, two types of immunity, that is the innate and the acquired. Okay, so innate means what, inborn. Okay, from the time of the birth only you will be having the immunity against certain diseases, whereas acquired means it's an adaptive type of immunity. So adaptive means what? Only like sometimes what happens is due to the natural environment, certain variations may take place. So your body itself will adapt that particular antibodies inside you so that it can prevent from the infections, right? So innate means what? Inborn, and acquired means adaptive, right? So when you come towards this innate immunity, okay, so innate immunity, it's a, even though if it's present from right from the birth, okay, it's a non-specific variety of immunity. So non-specific variety means what? Usually whatever type of pathogens are there, if it has that particular thing to control that particular pathogen, it will do it equally. Okay, so but for this purpose it requires what? Certain things, which is called as what? Line of defense. Okay, so basically the innate immunity or the inborn immunity which is there, it is having what? Certain defense levels. Okay, like for example, you can see over here, first level of defense and second level of defense. Okay, so when you see the first level of defense, yeah. So here if you see, okay, now for this there are two types of cells. One is T and B cells. Okay, that I will be telling you what it is. So if you see this thing, this is what the first one is, the innate, where you have the external defense and the internal defense. Whereas in the acquired or adaptive, you're having active and passive immunity. So the first one which we have over here is what? The external defense, right? So in the external defense, what are the things? The physical barriers. Okay, so already the physical barriers means your skin is there, the mucus of your respiratory system. Then we have the gastrointestinal, urinogenital tracts, all those stuff. Okay, wherever you have the mucus, small hairs, the skin, all this acts as what? The physical barriers. Second one is what? The chemical barriers. Okay, like for example, the physiological barriers also they can be known as, like the sweat, the saliva, the tears which you have in your eyes. All this acts as what? The physiological or the chemical barriers. Okay, then we have is the cellular barriers. So cellular barriers means what? Your cells. For example, the neutrophils, monocytes, these all are what? The natural killer, right? So naturally these cells are going to kill or destroy that particular microbes. Okay, so that is what? The neutrophils, then the monocytes, right? And also we have something which is called as macrophages. So all these are nothing but the white blood cells and its components which are going to destroy your microbes. Okay, then the next one which you have is what? The cytokine barriers. Cytokine barriers. So here you can see, right, the macrophages, inflammatory, fever, interferons, all this stuff. So cytokine kind barriers means what? It is nothing but there will be a protein, okay, which is called as what? Cytokine protein. So what this protein will do is, whatever the say for example, there is a cell which has been infected by a virus. Okay, so when that virus infected cells are going to release certain stuff out, which is called as what? Interferons. Okay, whatever the virus infected cells are there, they are going to release what? Something which is called as interferons. Now interferons are only called as the cytokine protein. So what this cytokine protein or interference will do? Now it itself has been infected, right? But it will make sure that the surrounding cells, okay, to the surrounding cells, this viral infection is not passed or spread. This is called as what? The cytokine barriers. Means itself it will be infected, but it will release such compounds that it will make sure that it's in whatever the neighbor cells are there, that will not be infected. Okay, so it will try to reduce or limit that particular spread of the infection. So these are all what? The innate or the inborn diseases which we have. Next we have is the acquired, okay, in which we have the active as well as the passive thing. So if the meeting gets over, just rejoin the same link, okay? Yeah. So, yeah. So acquired immunity. Okay, so active and passive. So acquired immunity. Now see, the innate immunity is non-specific, as I told you. But this acquired immunity is what? It's a pathogen specific type of thing. Means during your entire lifetime, it will keep the memory of that infected cells and it will act. Hence, it's called as what? The acquired immunity. So usually, whenever an acquired immunity has to get developed, there will be something which is called as what? Memory response. Now there is like how we study certain things and it remains in your memory, right? In the same way, these cells which are there, it will be having the capacity to memorize that particular thing. So next time when the same pathogen is going to invade you, it will already get alerted because it has all the antibodies against it, and that is only called as what? The primary response. So if you see over here, this is the primary antibody response. This is a secondary antibody response. So in the first infection, what is happening? Okay, what is happening is the short-lived plasma cells in the lymphoid organs. We are going to see what is lymphoid organs and what are the organs associated with it. But in the first infection, what will be happening is it will require a little time to keep it, memorize that particular thing. So it will require that time to detect, yeah, I'm getting infected by this particular pathogen. Now it's time to what? Produce antibodies against it. So it's like primary response of first infection. When it happens, what is going to happen is um, it will, our body will see that how the pathogen is going to respond. Okay, now this all depends upon whether the person is very weak or strong. Okay, so weak person, obviously in the first infection, severe symptoms he or she will be having. But if it's a healthy person, stronger person, whatever the severity of that particular infection is there, even though if it's first, it will be less. Okay, so this all takes place how? By the T and B lymphocytes, which is there. Okay, but in the secondary response, which is also called as the anamnestic response. Okay, so in the anamnestic response, what is going to happen is already encounters have been done. So now, if this time, in the second time, if the same infection is affecting you, you will be much more stronger. Means whatever the severity is there, that will be less and you will be cured in a faster rate when there is a repeated infection. So this is just the diagram which shows how actually, see, the activated B cells are there in the first infection. Okay, it is just storing that particular pathogens information, and later on, okay, in the bone marrow, whatever the plasma cells are there, which is already having that memory B cells, okay, it will tell it that this is infected. Now you will be, instead of taking 3 to 4 days of cure, when you're first infected, you will maybe only take 1 day or maybe 2 days, or you won't have any effect also sometimes. So this is all about what? The acquired immunity. Now, as I already told you, two types of cells, that is the B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. These are what? The major cells. So as you can see over here, B cells are what? They attack the invaders outside the cell. Whereas T cells, what it does is it will attack the infected cells. Okay, so this is the difference. B cells, what it will do, it will attack invaders which are outside the cells, whereas T cells will directly attack the infected cells. There's just a minute difference between the two. Okay, but these are the roles of what? B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. Because in the B lymphocytes, what they do is its role is just to produce the antibodies against the first pathogen. So first pathogen, whoever is going to attack, it will just produce what? Antibodies against it. So it will just destroy the proteins of that pathogens, and there are different kinds of antibodies which are produced in your body. Like for example, we have IgA, okay, IgM, IgE, and IgG. So these are all specific groups of antibodies. Okay, so certain from like all these antibodies, they do what? They produce antibodies, or not antibodies, but they produce what? A prevention against that different types of pathogens. So that will be in the basis of what? Your memory cells. Okay, so usually this is how the, let me see, just a second. Hmm. Hmm.